We're gonna switch out.
Good afternoon. It's so nice to have my tribe behind me because this is incredibly difficult to do. I'm already starting to cry.
It's okay.
Thank you so much all for being here. We were here last year, and seeing you guys ride in is just so amazing. There's moms, dads, sisters, brothers all across the U.S. who are so incredibly humbled, proud of what you guys are doing and riding for our children. So thank you. My name is Terry Almanza. I am a grieving mother, a retired Chicago police officer, and the founder of the non-for-profit organization Drug Induced Homicide. We are a nationwide organization created in support of our judicial system, ensuring that every suspected drug toxicity death is criminally investigated. I'd like to pay tribute to the countless lives lost to drugs and the families surviving the indescribable pain of losing a loved one. If we could just take one moment of silence, please. I'd also like to thank the countless law enforcement agencies, the prosecutors, and the elected officials aggressively pursuing justice in these lethal poisonings. We admit that none of these efforts will bring back the victims lost to this growing epidemic, but we are confident that locking up these criminals will save the lives of others, sending a clear and unmistakable message to these drug dealers that if you choose to profit from the misery and suffering of others, that our judicial system will pursue you. Should the unthinkable tragedy of a drug toxicity death occur because of your unlawful delivery, expect to be in prison for a very long time. There are a million topics that I'd love to speak of today, but I felt sharing my experience with my daughter's homicide is what would benefit the thousands of families struggling to get the answers, closure, and the justice warranted. On May 31st, 2015, my husband John found our 18-year-old daughter Sydney deceased after she ingested a lethal amount of ecstasy. As a Chicago police officer, I knew what took place was criminal, but had never heard of the 1989 Drug Induced Homicide statute, which is simply defined as the unlawful delivery of a controlled substance resulting in a death. It is a Class X felony, punishable with a minimum term of imprisonment of 6 years and a maximum years of 30. The Cook County Medical Examiner determined Sydney's cause of death to be MDMA toxicity, ecstasy. Detectives immediately closed Sydney's case, classifying it as non-criminal. How can a person unlawfully deliver an illicit narcotic to my child and she die, and no one goes to jail? The Chicago police detectives repeatedly shared that Sydney made a choice. Sydney never made a choice to die. A fellow grieving mom said it best: our kids are supposed to learn from their mistakes, not die from them. Chicago police detectives sharing that despite the drug-induced homicide statute, the Chicago Police Department had no protocol to investigate her death criminally. I continue to say, why can't Sydney's be the first? To date, 5,340 people have died of opioid poisonings just in Chicago since Sydney's homicide in 2015, and only 3 cases have resulted in a drug-induced homicide conviction. That is unacceptable. Where is our justice? Sydney's case remained closed. As a law enforcement officer, I was prohibited from speaking publicly to the media, citing that my interviews would compromise Sydney's case. What case? The suspected dealers and witnesses had not even been brought in for questioning. 8 months had come and gone, and law enforcement did nothing. I networked with other grieving families, hosted rallies all across the U.S., started my own foundation, networked with McHenry, Will, and Lake County state's attorneys as they were actively prosecuting these drug dealers peddling poison for profit. I was advised by former Chicago Police Chief Anthony Riccio that Sydney's dealers would never admit to delivering Sydney a lethal dose of ecstasy. I pleaded with him, stating, can we just try? Can we just bring them in and question them? Against the Chicago Police Department's advisement, I spoke out publicly to the media advocating that a protocol must be implemented immediately, ensuring that every suspected drug toxicity death was treated as a homicide. 16 months after Sydney's homicide, detectives finally questioned the suspected dealers. Both dealers confessed to distributing pure and potent MDMA to my daughter, who they referred to as an inexperienced user. Both suspects were charged with drug-induced homicide and released while awaiting trial. Shortly thereafter, both defendants were arrested again after selling 110 hits of LSD and 1 gram of MDMA to an undercover officer. In 2018, both defendants, Brent Tyssen and Cynthia Parker, were convicted of the drug-induced homicide of my daughter, Sydney Churgan. In February 2021, the Chicago Police Department Bureau of Detectives released a protocol dedicated to the drug-induced homicide investigations. I am proud to share that our foundation assisted in writing of this directive. I do not think that there is anything crueler than a parent being forced to plead for justice for the homicide of their child or being dismissed by the judicial system. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak today. It is truly an honor. It is my hope that sharing my experience may offer some guidance and hope in advocating for justice in the lethal poisonings of our loved ones. Thank you so much. We have a table back there with our flyers, with some free bracelets. Please grab some. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Terry.